Look, we all know Battlefield's been in a bad place these last few years. Between Battlefield 5 veering into topics and not being able to stay out of the whole controversial mess that it was in, and then Battlefield 42 completely changing its design philosophy by changing out classes, removing some destruction elements. Battlefield's been struggling of late, and we're seeing that response from the Battlefield devs. IGN has the article where they're talking about destruction. We're only going to be here for a second. We want to look at the true article here because, again, look at this thing. This is what gets me about like games journalism nowadays. They're just regurgitating the information that the Battlefield devs have. Um, and it's like, okay, wow, this was worth an entire article with a 15-second clip. Whereas the community devs is this long. You couldn't make commentary on this. But my own problem with games journalism nowadays is beyond the point. We're here to talk about what Battlefield is doing different because I played Battlefield 3, I played Battlefield 4. I love Battlefield 1. Still do. Played Battlefield 5. Yeah, it was meh and didn't really stick on it very long. I only played it cuz it was on Game Pass. But Battlefield is finally going back to the roots. We all know that destruction has always been an element of the Battlefield games. Blowing out a wall has always been an option. And they're finally realizing that, I think. Now, DICE has, again, they have been having problems with their game. And coming into it like this, they're like, okay, we need to focus on what Battlefield is. Uh, Destruction. They're going back to the class system, which is very important. The 4 classes of battle 4 or 5? I believe it was 4. The classes of Battlefield were very important to the game. They structured balance. They and gave them the room to make larger maps. Okay, let's get back into kind of what they said. Goals for destruction are centered around adding further gameplay depth by allowing players to reshape the environment and transform your surroundings towards a tactical advantage. Now, this is where gameplay philosophy comes in. Um, Battlefield is very hard to balance gameplay wise because you can't create unbalanced maps. Uh, Initially, and then the player because you want the game to initially be balanced, and how a lot of FPSs do that is through a lane system. So, for instance, when you're looking at a general game, of any FPS, you have your 2 sides, whether it be north, south, east, west, whatever sides you're planting them on spawn points, um, and then you usually have lanes. These are attack lanes, these are the areas, some maps only have 1 lane, most maps have 3 lanes, uh, some games have perfected the lanes. A lot games like Battlefield have an issue because how you make these lanes unique is you don't let them be straight lines. You let them curve around certain areas, backtrack. You can have lanes like that or lanes and side lanes and that kind of thing. Battlefield changes that by not putting barriers to separate the lanes, but allowing the players to change the map to their whim, blow apart the buildings, create their own lanes, create not crossfire, create uh, fire lanes, whatever. What am I trying to say? Uh, Points of fire, overlapping fields of fire. That's what I'm trying to say. They create overlapping fields of fire between lanes, large vehicles, and Battlefield seems to finally get it. Let's take walls for an example. New destruction language. Once a wall takes enough damage from an explosion, smaller impacts such as bullets will also contribute to allowing you to shoot your way through a wall. Yes. So this is just talking again about their destruction. Uh, Different surface types. Yep, new mechanics allow you to create more destruction-related opportunities. We have their little clip here where they're showing somebody blowing apart a building to create an access point. This goes back into the gameplay philosophy of we need destruction. Battlefield has always been about its destruction. In Battlefield 1, you could drive a tank through a building. We did that a lot, bringing down windmills, blowing holes open in walls. This has always been part of Battlefield's DNA, and they seem to have forgotten that, which is kind of frustrating. Um, The good news is fans have responded to this. There's a reason why Battlefield 42, even if people play it, even if people love it, has kind of been dismissed by a lot of players because Battlefield 2042 is kind of meh when Battlefield is already a hard game to get into. Its audience is already pretty, while expansive, it's not going to expand too much beyond that, especially when you have games like Call of Duty, um, upcoming marathon. Sorry, I'm still crapping on Marathon, I don't know why. Um, we're not here to talk about that game. And then, of course, you just look through it and it's like, "Okay, well, yeah, you removed a lot of essence from Battlefield from 2042." And so, coming back to it, I don't think they need to be praised for this. I don't think they should be praised for this. This should have been expected that, "Oh, we need to course correct." And a lot of games are seeing this course correction now as money has started to run out. The money has run out. That's the biggest thing. You see this with Ubisoft. EA is probably feeling it a little bit, which is why they're pushing a lot of their devs for games to go back to what works, to make money. We've gathered insights we've gathered range from everything between destruction as a tactical element to you as a player being able to differentiate between non-destructible and destructible environments. That's really important. They did not tell us like visual cues should tell us what is destructible and what is not. It shouldn't be absolutely clear, but we should be able to tell. Oh, if we hit that wall with a rocket, it's going to come down. You don't want everything to be destructible because then what's the point? Everyone's just going to pack some rocket launchers and bring down the buildings on everybody, which honestly is great. Um, Understanding the environments can or cannot be destroyed, the impact of collateral damage from debris and destructible elements. So, my question for that is okay, if this is what you're testing, are you implying that destroying a wall, sending shards and shrapnel everywhere can deal damage? I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that. Like, can you be crushed by the rubble? I would really like that to be crushed by the rubble. That adds a whole new tactical element where you're like, okay, we're having a firefight under a bridge. Why not shoot out the bridge? Tactical use of destruction to create new pathing or persistent environments. That's what I was talking about before with the battlefield's philosophy for using destructible environments to create overlapping fields of fire between lanes, and other tactical uses to create bridges between lanes. I don't trust that Battlefield's devs because this is all devs in these AAA games seem to think very similarly. They're gonna think of the lane system. Some games like Battlefield, you don't need lanes. I don't think Battlefield's map design should be lane based, because they're so expansive, and lanes like that just create a lot of problems. You can have like one lane straight through, but the entire battlefield should be its own lanes, balancing the ecosystem of damage through firepower and destruction. Our goals for our initial Battlefield Labs play sessions were to test server performance, gunplay, and movement, and for participants to get initial understanding for what's next for Battlefield. Okay, which means this is something that they did not intend. They didn't think this would be the biggest deal. Um, Based on this gunplay and performance gunplay and movement. They were not trying to test the limits of their destructive capabilities in their game. This is just something that the participants in I'm assuming it's some kind of yeah, it's a test, server test. The participants in this saw the destruction and went, "Yes, Battlefield's going back to what it's trying to do." Now, I can sit here and be all doom and gloom, Battlefield is not gonna learn from itself. I can say all of that, but that that's not what I want. I'm one of those people that's like, "Okay, I will not judge a game until it comes out." I talked a lot of crap on Marathon a couple days ago. Uh, I did, a lot, but that's because I don't believe that it will be a success. If it comes out and I am completely wrong. Same for Battlefield. If it comes out and its destruction elements are completely garbage, I will happily eat my words because I want what's best for the industry. I'm I believe that open communication is what's best for the industry. So, when they're coming in saying, "We found this and it's not intentional," it means at least they're keeping an eye out for what's working in their game. Um, we encountered initial issues with server stability and performance. That is one issue with these kind of systems. When you add these physics engines, it requires a lot more I don't wanna say processing power because that can be, like, one of those meaningless things where I'm completely wrong in the computer tech, but it requires better performance for devices, and when you're building a console game, you're kind of limited on that. If you're interested in learning a design philosophy gunplay, we learned gunplay feels in a we've learned that while gunplay feels in a good spot, there's for yes. So that's another thing Battlefield does really well. Even in 2042, its gunplay feels really well. Battlefield's gunplay has always felt amazing. There's a reason Battlefield 1 was so good. Battlefield's gunplay is great. It's the rest of it that has kind of fallen apart, moving to specialists, getting out of, getting out of the not necessarily modern day, but bringing modern day aspects into background games, a lot of people complained when Battlefield 1 came out that you're having, fully auto weapons when you're in World War One, when which was mostly, repeater-based, rifle-based, not necessarily automatic weapons, and so but it's like, okay, no, that's just design preferences, and then I guess these weapons did historically exist then, may not have been that common, but they did exist, um, and then full prosthetics in Battlefield 5, everything like that was like, "Oh, no, we're not playing those games." Um, honestly, there's not as much here, to talk about because this is just a quick community update. I haven't even looked at the other community update. Let's just poke at it a little bit. Um, yep, they're just talking about the gunplay. This was I don't see a date on this. Dang, I don't see a date on this. Here it is, March 7th. Wow, a month ago. Um, what's new and improved for gunplay? Initially, you select important areas, create foundation to create fun and rewarding battlefield combat experience. The big thing that they need to watch is going to be balance. Um, they are going to need to watch balance because if they don't watch their gunplay balance, it's going to be a problem. If they don't balance their maps properly, the issue with these kind of destructive environments is you require so much play testing because you need to decide how much destruction is allowed. If they just go, okay, well, if you can blow up in 5 or 6 areas between the buildings, is that too much? Is that too little? That's one of those things where it's like, okay, you have to be careful in gameplay design about this. And they know it, which is great. I don't know if like we're getting new devs for Battlefield or if EA's just starting to back off a little bit because they're going back to their foundational roots. Destruction, good gunplay, large scale maps. It's like, okay, you're going back to what works. Classes. I don't know why they ever moved away from classes into specialists. I think it was EA. Personally, that's the thing. I don't know how much of it is their parent company going, no, 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 no. You have to do it this way. Versus how much of it is DICE going, but we want to make our Battlefield game. I honestly think Battlefield could be in a good place, and I'm looking forward to this next Battlefield. I want this game to be a success. I want Battlefield to go back to being Battlefield. I want games to go back to being what they were great at doing. I'm not saying we need to go back to the golden age of video games 10, 15 years ago. I'm just saying, like, hey, you can evolve mechanics without ruining the soul of the game. I'm trying to think of games that did this. I think no, there's not too many left that really do that. Battlefield has tried. They kept it up for a good while, but I haven't heard of a good Battlefield game since Battlefield 1 took over, and Battlefield 1 was phenomenal, but that was years ago. A lot of these larger game studios have fallen off. Larian is one of those that keeps their design game their game design consistent and the game philosophy consistent, but Larian is an exception, not the rule. I would love for DICE to be like, "Okay, no, we're correcting ship," because they need to make some money. Like Ubisoft, DICE needs to make some money or else EA is gonna start well, I think DICE already makes a lot of money for EA, so they probably won't be taken out, but they don't want to show like, "Hey, if our game audience keeps shrinking and we're not expanding, we could be in trouble sometime." They're looking towards the future, which is good. Honestly, I'm looking forward to Battlefields if it's good. If it's what they say they're doing, going back to the class system, reintroducing the heavily destructible environments. Battlefield 42 had its destructible environment, sure, but it was nowhere close to what this is. And so Battlefield being Battlefield needs to make sure its artistic identity is intact, which big game companies have a knack for destroying. Which is why I'm saying, okay, I'm optimistic that they are going to make a decent game. Of course, I'm going to wait until it comes out. Always wait till it comes out. Never pre-order because pre-ordering games is very detrimental to uh, the gaming ecosystem. Play it if it comes out. See if it's good. Be honest with EA. I'm optimistic, but again, if it comes out and it's completely horrible, I'm more than happy to eat my words. What's good for the industry is not necessarily what's good for these developers. Um, I mean, that's pretty much all I've got to say on Battlefield today. We will see you guys later. Oh, right, before I go. Before I go, you're this far. You're 15 minutes in. If you're enjoying my views on these different things, go ahead and hit that subscribe, like, follow, whichever platform you're on. Give us those juicy interactions. They're like tipping us over here. They help us stick around, and of course, share us with your friends because that is the best way for these small channels to grow. We will see you guys later.